Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Shotzzy has revealed the two key things that OpTic will have to work on going forward if they want to take down Los Angeles Thieves or any competitor they might have in another grand finals from now to the rest of the season. But Drazah also reveals the one player he respects the most in or out of the CDL, saying iLLeY is the man he would like to see back very soon and has an awful lot of respect for what he's been able to achieve so far. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Plenty to dive into. First of all, if this wants to load, Shotzzy, a new vlog last night. We're going to show a little bit for the vlog here in a second. He actually can ride a bike. Can you believe it? I know there was a pretty funny segment here as soon as this screenshot came out from the episodes where there's a little bit that comes up on screen and says it took Shotzzy 20 minutes to figure out how to ride the bike. And he did say that the last time he'd ridden a bike was when he was like 8 years old or something. So, but he just wanted to get a bike because he's going to run a marathon apparently, which is super impressive. We'll talk about that in a second. That's his plan for the end of the year. Before we get to that, though, I wanted to say from Parasite, there has been quite some discussion lately on cheaters in ranked play especially, and how it's effectively ruining the game. And it's frustrating one, right? Because ranked is so good. When it first came out, it was really exciting, and still Shotzzy's videos and everything do really well on ranked. But I imagine the player base for ranked is starting to dip a little bit because fundamentally we're playing Modern Warfare 2. It's not a particularly good game. The maps aren't particularly good. So a decent ranked mode can only last so long in that setting if there aren't, you know, new maps, new reasons to play coming in with a game that fundamentally isn't that good. So ranked has been great for this game, there's no doubt, but I think it's going to be difficult to maintain, especially when in the upper echelons cheaters are everywhere, and the ricochet anti-cheat, the kernel anti-cheat, whatever they talked about how it was good it was going to be, doesn't really do much, and there's a load of cheaters in the game anyway. Parasite submitted 50 cheater reports yesterday, submitted over 50 different cheaters today thanks to the blatant clip. So if you guys have clips of cheaters you've played, send them to Haggy, or maybe his DMs are flooded. So actually he does say just DM me, thank you. So maybe he does want the DMs, but yeah, so Parasite is taking matters into his own hands here and is going to become the absolute cheater demon for them to deal with, and he's going to submit all the cheating requests here to Activision. So with any luck, with spelled out Activision ID as well, they can get all these banned, and Parasite is hopefully single-handedly going to save rank, at least on the very top level, I guess, where a lot of these come to play. Let's talk Shotzzy then and OpTic's potential going forwards, because their team has been unbelievable in the hardpoint, best hardpoint team in the game. Yes, they lost a couple to Thieves, but of course you got to think that Hydro map, there's some questions as to whether they should have played Embassy instead, whether they went down the correct route, but it was really their other game modes, especially in that series, a couple of series they played that were falling short a little bit, especially their control on the championship Sunday wasn't quite so good as they need to be again. And it's interesting, right, when they played Toronto at Major 3, when they played Thieves at Major 4, very similar results in the grand finals in terms of the way the series went, losing the Hydro hardpoint, losing the iLLeY control. So I think they know where they've got to improve, and that's what Shotzzy says in this vlog here. I'll just share for you guys now. So Shotzzy comes out with the vlog last night. I believe it's his second one in a couple of weeks. He goes to get that new bike as we saw, but he also mentions in this that he's planning to run a marathon later this year. We know that Shotzzy runs, and yeah, it's a good hobby. And we talked earlier today that Drazah basically has no other hobbies, right? His teammates in the past, the likes of Slasher, Slasher's hitting the gym a lot, right? You know, I think he's even got the entire FaZe team to hit the gym. Pretty sure Cellium has been pumping iron and all this. Drazah has no time for that. I think he mentioned in this podcast episode as well with Mack and Maven that, you know, he's got no real time to build muscles because he's just on the Call of Duty grind all the time. Whereas Shotzzy, he's running a lot. I'm sure it's really good for his mental and everything. And apparently he's pretty damn good. So in the off-season, he's planning to even run a marathon, which would be super impressive. I'd love to see how that would go, but also he mentions the two specific things they've got to work on after getting back from the event, and that's search and destroy, and that's their control.
Yeah, I just got back, obviously, from the event. Got second once again, obviously not the result we wanted, but keep on pushing. I feel like the team is in a really, really good spot. We just need to keep improving our controls, S&Ds, all that good stuff. I'm pretty sure we're not going to scrim this week. We're going to scrim next week, so keep on pushing, keep doing our thing. Proud of the boys as always. You know, we made a run this event, but fell short at the end. All good, though. So I'm pretty sure after we get ice cream, we're going to... I want to get a bike because, as most of you guys know, I run, and at the end of the year, my goal is to run a marathon, and I actually ran in the morning. I ran 3.5 miles. But yeah, if you guys have any recommendations, then comment down below. I'd really appreciate it because...
That one comes in with a built-in computer, guys. I don't think you were here. So this one, yeah, this little right here. What you do is you go to your
Oh, this is one for show. This is the one for sure. Oh yeah, yeah.
It's nice, right? It's fast.
Oh yeah.
Fast as shit. I mean, you can get some speed.
This one's insane.
So when you look at their record, you think, all right, 13 in 3 in hardpoint, 7 in 4 in search, 7 in 4 in control, not too bad. But the reality is, I suppose, that when they played Thieves, their search was pretty decent in the grand finals, but they did get countered a fair bit on Fortress. It was very clear that the way that Thieves set up their Fortress search and destroy play was just straight up the hard counter what OpTic were doing. The way that Dashy watches the pinch, and then, you know, if they can catch Dashy off guard, they know what the reaction will be. And, you know, it's expected, right? When you're a team like OpTic or the favourites going in, you're the team that's going to get looked at the most, and Thieves certainly did that. So it's about coming up with new counters to their ideas now, right? Obviously, they did win a search and destroy in the grand finals, but they didn't win a control. They were really good in control up to this point. They were certainly looking better and better. They lost one to Boston. The other 3 they lost were to Thieves, right? We know that Thieves are a great control team, so that's the thing. OpTic are not looking anymore about the league averages or what they've done against the other teams. They're looking at Thieves. They're looking at FaZe. They're looking at Toronto and figuring out where they need to improve. I think that's understandable. And even in terms of some of the numbers here, Slayer ratings, Shotzzy is on here, 81. The way this works is it considers if the series went to like all the way to 5 maps, what's the average amount of kills that that player would get per series? And Prid being at 89, almost 90 is pretty outrageous, to be honest, right? Because if you think about it, how often do you see a 100 kill series in 5 maps? It's pretty rare to see someone get over 100. It does happen. The record is what now? Like, did Standy get to 119 or something? I'm pretty sure that it was Dashy who did hold the record at 115 earlier this year. And I think it was Pred actually that got to 119, didn't he? It's something outrageous like that anyway. But his Slayer rating has been insane all season. Then Hydra, then Scrap, then aBeZy, and then Shotzzy. But the spread across those 5 is pretty outrageous. How high up Pred is here, actually. And then Search and Destroy KDs. Dashy appears on this one with a 1.2. Brack actually pretty impressive, a 1.24. Fame, aBeZy, and Pred. Obviously bigger sample sizes here for Pred, aBeZy for sure. And also, well, I suppose lesser for Fame, given he hasn't been in the CDL that long. But also wanted to share this clip that came up from that podcast with Merc and Maven last night on iLLeY, when Drazah was asked the question, who do you respect the most of any players? Because we know that Drazah doesn't respect, well, okay, I think he's got respect for players. He even mentioned that he does have respect for FaZe in some part, like he respects their ability, but yeah, maybe not some other things about their gameplay. But he said earlier on that he respects a lot of the guys that he's played in challenges before because he knows they're the grinders and those are the ones that he came up with, and you know, feels like they actually put in more time and deserve more maybe than some of the players in the professional league. So he gives a lot of credit to iLLeY, and he says if there's one player in the CDL or kind of on the fringes of the CDL that he respects the most, it's iLLeY. The amount of time that iLLeY's put in, he is one of the biggest grinders, there's no doubt. Now, yes, over the past few months, maybe that wasn't the case anymore, but he's looking forward to his return.
But this one's from Michael Rook. Other than your teammates, who is the one player or players I guess you have a lot of respect for?
Like I was bringing him before, but he's not in the league right now, or I mean technically, but iLLeY. iLLeY, I have a lot of respect for iLLeY. That is one of the people that I was kind of, you know, talking to and, you know, when I was coming up in MW and all these things. And that was a person who I would say he's probably the second biggest grinder there is. Obviously, he hasn't been playing recently, but I think, you know, I give hella respect to him, and I think he's part of the reason why I, you know, put that much extra online, like on, because he, when I was playing and he was playing in MW, he was grinding when no one else was grinding. Yeah. And I think you know, I took some of that from him, and I realized, and I was like, wow, like this guy's winning champs in MW, and he's put, like, he cares very deeply for it, and he plays more than everyone else. So I took that, and I was like, hey, like, if this is my competition, if I want to be able to beat this, I have to be, you know, play more or be better. So huge shout out to iLLeY. That guy's, you know, I'll always have that respect for that guy. People who, like I said, play the game will always have my respect because I know who's playing and who's not playing, and he's definitely someone who's playing a lot. So shout out to iLLeY.
All right, shout out to iLLeY. Hopefully he comes back soon.
Yeah, that'll be fun to see too.
So I think it's nice to see Drazah give some credit to iLLeY there, because there's been a lot of debate around iLLeY lately, because when he came into the scene, first of all, he was in the conversation with Simp and with Cellium, right? He was a really hyped up individual player that was expected to come in and fry, as he had done in Search and Destroy online chals for years. But he came into the scene and was never really a superstar player like a Simp or a Cellium. Now, does that mean iLLeY is a bust compared to what he was expected to to do? I don't think so. He's won a couple of events. He won the World Championship way back in 2020 in his first season competing, and was a very important reason as to why that was the case. And he's a very solid role player that can do a job for the team, but he was never, you know, compared to Simp and Cellium, it's obviously a slightly different story that iLLeY has had compared to the players that he came up with at the time. But still, I think deserves a lot of credit. Drazah certainly believes so as well, and is looking forward to his return. When that will happen, we don't really know. iLLeY has been teasing it recently, right, that he's going to be back relatively soon. I don't know what his pinned tweet is at the moment, right, but, you know, he's done some tweets recently that's kind of implied that he's going to be back soon. He took a while away from Twitter after the OpTic's stuff and is kind of plotting his return, as he says, nothing like competing on that stage, all this stuff. So we'll see when or if, I suppose, iLLeY makes the return, where he's going to come back to as well. But this roster mania, I think, is going to be pretty crazy, because there's a lot of teams that are going to be in the free agent conversation. FaZe, if they don't improve, they're going to look to make at least one change. You would think probably just one change, but honestly, who knows? Thieves are all free agents this season. They should re-sign, but you know, who knows what they're going to do. I think 90% chance that they stick together, but still, things can happen because Pred and Sib and all these options are going to be available on the market. So it's going to be a pretty open roster mania period that iLLeY could potentially capitalize on. Also wanted to mention this, that iLLeY's not on this list, but still remarkable what players are and certainly have been. So these are the longest current streaks of a 1+ KD at an event. Dashy is tied with Cell at now 16 in a row. These are, of course, current streaks. Hydra's at 14, Pred at 10, Sky's at 9, Octane at 8, etc, etc. These are the current streaks. Now, even better than this, though, is when we look historically, and we find the all-time streaks sit as follows. So Dashy and Cell at 16, that's where they sit. They've broken the records of Slasher and Clay and even Simple time, and a couple more will take them past Octane, and then Crim6, and Octane's personal record is actually at 23, but then you get up to Saints, and I feel like Saints, before we even talk about Scump, pretty outrageous, but Saints is a player that people maybe look over a little bit too much, to be honest. Saints was, I think, for some time, possibly, very much arguably, the greatest player not to have ever won the World Championship. There was certainly a period a few years ago where I think that was arguable, where Saints was a super good player for many years, even from, like, you know, the Ghost days up until the early Jetpack days, Infinite Warfare, winning with Luminosity Gaming. He was such a good player for so many years, but is definitely looked over. That's not Brian Saints, by the way, the coach of Minnesota Rokkr. That's Saints Nato, different player. Former low at 34. The all-time record, though, is Scump at 47. I mean, this number is just ridiculous, especially if you think, right, that a lot of these other players on here were AR players and still are AR players. Scump did this on an SMG for absolutely years. I believe it was the penultimate event of World War II where the streak was finally broken, but outside, like, he was doing it for absolutely years. Ridiculous to think. I mean, to break that record today, there was more events back then, obviously, but to break that record today, they would have to keep going on these streaks for literally years to come, right? I mean, like, think about it, 6 events a year or so. Dashy's going to take how many years to catch up to Scump? Another 5-6 years straight of 1 KDs plus, so, you know, maybe it can happen, but it's not going to be easy at all. And as Saint says, you know, come on now, because he's right at the top of that list, and for good reason. And here we go then, just the final couple of stats to close out here with. So hardpoint KDs on the season so far. This is the average, Cellium with a 1.2, then Hydra, then Awakening, actually very interesting for multiple reasons. Pred and Sib closing out the top 5. And in terms of overall KDs, it's a similar list. Awakening is here at a 1.13, Hydra, Scrap, Pred, but Cellium again leading the line. So very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
There's such thing, yeah, exactly, a balance. For me, what works for me, and it's different for everyone. What works for me, there is no balance. I play all day. I'm gonna go home and play. Obviously, if I just played for a week, like if I need, I know when I need it. I know when I need to chill, and I'll take a day off. I'll take a few hours off. But like for me, my balance, like there's no balance. I play and I play and I play and I play and I play, and I know what I need to work on, and I work hard to do it. I work hard to fix the things that I know our team needs. And that isn't just scrims. Like after scrims, there's not a lot of people who play that much after. And I think that was also a big thing for Vanguard of why, like, I really think that we also became one of the best teams in the best team in the world of that game, is because I sat there every single night for months playing S&D, because I knew our S&D was good, okay, but it wasn't great.